6th meeting of the Planning Board. As always, please note that this meeting is being recorded and may be broadcast or rebroadcast at WestfordCAT. We'll start with, we have Mr. Jenowitz and Mr. Morissette here with us. We'll start with open forum. Anything for open forum?
Just if anybody is here for the 50 Main Street, the library expansion project, they have requested to continue without discussion to the January 6th meeting.
All right.
I would just like to announce, I'm not sure if we already told you folks this, but the town is receiving a grant for $106,000 to conduct a Route 40 corridor study, consistent with that town meeting resolution from 2023. Seems so long ago, but yet not. So we won't receive those monies until next calendar year, but I wanted to warn you, we may or may not be looking to create a committee like we did for MBTA, probably a lesser scale perhaps, but it would make logical sense to have at least one planning board member to participate in that. So just throwing that out there. That one was a housing choice grant, so.
Right.
Also, we are, our new building commissioner starts this Wednesday. His name is Eric Tardif. He comes from Needham, where he was the assistant building commissioner. Selfishly, I'm very glad to see him start on Wednesday. And we'll bring him to some future meeting to meet you folks, so. And then, let's see. There is an environmental notification form. That's sort of the precursor to the MIPA process. This is regarding 37 Powers Road. Not a surprise, anytime you file a project or you're proposing a project that triggers certain thresholds, this is just the start of the process, and it really is to determine if an environmental impact report is needed. So this is the first step, and we can share that information with you in your next packet. We only just received that, so. Joe, what am I?
On that one, Jeff, given what I think we talked about some other projects here recently about how the information is published, should that project maybe receive its own area up off of the planning board page, since I would expect there'll be quite a few documents?
Yeah, we do upload, for projects like that, we do upload the materials as they come in. Again, we don't actually have the official application yet. We anticipate that maybe by February. So we can certainly talk about making that as accessible to folks as possible.
Kind of like some of our other big controversial projects, I'd suggest we have it out there.
I'll say
residents to get
a lot of public interest doesn't mean controversial, but
a lot of public interest.
Yes, because it'll be the first of probably several. So,
and this is a pretty large property.
Yes. Joe, what am I forgetting?
That's it.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Great. Congratulations. Thank you. Anybody else feeling for? Nope. In the audience? Okay, moving along to our first public hearing, PB 2425, 50 Main Street, J.B. Fletcher Library. Can I have a motion to continue this to the January 6th meeting here at 7 o'clock?
So moved.
Second.
Motion second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Second public hearing is PB 2427, 115 Depot Street. And welcome, Attorney Robbins.
Mr. Chair. I have no engineer, so I made my own board, so that's why I'm putting it up for you to see. Most of this is in your packet or public record, but I just found it easier if I'm talking about it, I can point over to which one I'm talking about. Good evening, members of the board. For the record, Attorney Melissa Robbins from Farrell & Robbins. I'm here tonight for a requested modification at 115 Depot Street, which I will keep calling Depot Road, and I still don't have clarification on which one it is. Also with me tonight is Constance Benoit and William Benoit. They are the trustees of the trust, the Benoit Family Trust, who are now the owners of the property. We're here today to request a modification to the original approval for Tall Pines. The Tall Pines was a flexible development that was approved in 1999. This request will remove the requirement for the 55 and over on this unit only. The current resident here is Constance's mother, Pauline. Pauline couldn't be here this evening. She just is 90 years old and has trouble getting around in the evening. She now lives with Constance in Raynham, so it's a little bit of a haul. So I told her she did not have to attend tonight. Constance and William are here in her place. Just for a little bit of background here, Pauline was the original owner of this property. She bought this property in the year 2000 for $249,900. I think that Joe had circulated a chart and it showed like a conveyance for $1. That was into the trust, which is how her daughter owns the property now. So Pauline lived there for over 2 decades. She moved out in last December, excuse me, and she listed the property in April for $560,000. As you can see from the Zillow listing or some of the material that I've put into your packet, it is now listed for its assessed value of $535,000. Despite its reduced price, we have got 0 offers on the property since April of last year. I won't belabor this, but I do want to go into a little history about Tall Pines because I think it's important. Tall Pines was the very first flexible development that was improved in the town of Westford. The flexible development just gone through town meeting the year before, and there was a lot of attention and a lot of detail put into the creation of this project. I don't know if all of you have had the pleasure of going through a flexible development just because they're not done very often in the town of Westford, but just a little bit of background about it. Flexible developments are generally based on a conceptual plan where you can only get as many units as you can under conventional zoning. So in this instance, they could get 4 lots under conventional zoning. One of those lots is required to be affordable. 15% has to be affordable under your flexible development bylaw. Under flexible development, you can get bonuses. The bonuses here were done 2 ways. One was that they built 2 age-restricted units and got 1 extra lot. The other was a combination of good design standards and additional open space, and the combination of all of that got them 2 lots. So only 2 additional lots were created out here. And both ended up being age-restricted, and 1 ended up being affordable. You may ask me why a developer would go through the exercise of creating bonus lots just for them to be age-restricted or affordable. I'm guessing it's because this satisfied the affordable requirement. One of these units satisfied the affordable requirement, which would be 113 Depot Road, or street.
Great.
Yes, so that is why I believe that it was created. Also, they did get the benefit of the flexible development, which is to create smaller lots, more open space, different setbacks to each of the lot requirements. So I would suspect that's why they went through the exercise of creating the flexible development.
And that's for Riley Road, right?
That's for Riley Road. So as you can see on the plan here, what ended up happening in this flexible development was 4 conventional lots were created. All of those lots are along Riley Road. Joe, I don't know if you have the
Well,
GIS.
so I was part of the original flexible development concept team. One correction, it was approved at annual town meeting in 1999.
Yep.
Just prior to this. In fact, I think this had to be, I think they had to await the final approval to get the Attorney General's approval for the bylaw.
That's correct.
They started the process before it ever had the AG's approval.
That's correct.
And secondly, I believe the affordability and the over 55 have percentage bonuses associated with them. They contributed to the bonus that led to the 2 lots.
Yes.
And the 4 lots, when you say that they're conventional, I'm not sure they really are. I think they were also 0 lot line adjusted as part of the flexible development layout.
That's correct.
In that process. So
Yes.
even they aren't, this doesn't really show the conventional
No.
proposal.
No, I mean, and generally that you wouldn't see that plan again, showing the 4 lots. It's a proof plan to the planning board generally, and then they come out of the setback.
It's somewhere in the
Yes.
records, but it's not on published online.
Bob's absolutely correct here. Those 4 lots got the benefit of this flexible development. They're smaller. They're not 40,000 square feet. They do not meet the setback requirements in the RA zoning district. And to do that, they clustered it and created open space. So those lots did get the benefit of the flexible development.
And the town got the benefit of the open space.
That's correct.
With, there's a trail easement there as well.
That's correct, going all the way around the back. I say conventional, just in those 4 lots back there are your more typical homes.
I will give you that, yes.
Yeah, so there are 4 homes back there, and I think in the chart that Joe sent to you in your packet, you can see that the values of these homes are basically $1 million, close to $1 million, or a little over $1 million. These are the assessed values, not the most recent sale price. So if you look at the assessed values there, you can see these are larger homes. They're certainly much bigger square footage than the 2 units out front. The 2 units out front, which are the age-restricted units, are 113 Depot Street and 115 Depot Street. Those are the units I'm here to talk about today, and actually only one in particular, which is 115 Depot Street. I will talk quickly, though, about 113 Depot Street because it's an interesting fact about the affordable requirement. So 113 Depot Street was to be the age-restricted unit and the affordable unit. So that covered 2 bases for flexible development. Unfortunately, when the house went to get resold, they could not find an affordable purchaser. So in 2018, the town of Westford actually waived their right of first refusal on this project, and the deed restriction for the affordability is gone on that unit, and the town got the benefit by getting the excess money for the unit, which was $20,000 some odd dollars. I'm going to talk about that in a minute, why that happened, but that did happen. So the affordable housing restriction on 113 Depot Street is gone, but it continues to be age restricted. That side of the unit, it's hard to see, but it's actually a single living unit. So it's like a ranch style off to the right-hand side that does not have second floor bedrooms. My client's property is, for lack of a better term here, I know Joe's trying to get it up, is 115 Depot Street. It is age restricted. It's a smaller unit. It's beautifully designed inside, but both of the bedrooms are on the second floor. Strangely enough, the units are connected by a wall right on the lot line, and they share a roof. So that's the street perspective there. But this is not a condominium. These are both single-family homes, and they are now assessed as such. When the project was first approved, the assessor's office actually assessed these as condominiums because one would assume this was a condominium. But in 2019, right after the affordable housing restriction was removed, they realized that these were actually on 2 separate lots, even though they were built as one structure. So now they are both assessed as single-family homes. So if you go through the tax basis and wonder what happened in 2019, that's what happened. You'll see that they were taxed as a condo on the building only, and then you see an assessment for building and land, which raised the taxes quite a bit, as you can imagine. So that's a little history of how we got here. I want to emphasize that the price that my clients have this listed at is $535,000. This is the exact same as the assessed value. I did put an appraisal in your packet just for informational purposes only, but you can see it's assessed a little bit less at $530,000, so basically it's in the wash. I know that the board is concerned about removing this age restriction, but this age restriction has no benefit to anybody at this point. My client is suffering because she cannot live here due to the constraints and due to her failing health. And clearly, given the time frame that has gone since this house has been listed, no senior wants to buy this unit. No senior has even made a lowball offer on this unit, well below the asking price. The broker tells me largely this is because of the restriction. She's had families come and look at it, but they cannot live there because neither of the residents are 55 and over. And any of the 55 and over people that come and look at the property realize that they can't, they don't want the bedrooms on the second floor, and they can't put in a 3rd bedroom because there's a 2-bedroom restriction. Just another detail on the price as well. I don't want to belabor the appraisal, but the only comp in there on the appraisal is 1 unit in Stone Ridge, which sold last year. And I won't even talk about the sales price, but the assessed value of that property is $541,000. So this is right in line with the Stone Ridge property, slightly less. But obviously this is not in a 55 and over community, and that unit has 1 bedroom on the first floor and 1 bedroom on the second floor. So if you're looking at our price and making sure we're on point, we are on point. I actually looked at Zillow earlier today, and this is the 2nd lowest listed house in the town of Westford. The other house that's listed, and I can't remember the name of the project, but everybody here will know that it's the Rancho project, that is priced slightly lower, but that's because their condo fees are $535 a month. So very high condo fees out there. I am not going to say that the board in 1999 made a mistake here. They did a lot of work. They got this approved, they went through the flexible development bylaw, and then they approved this project. But what I will say is over the last 2 decades, we've learned a lot about housing. We've learned what doesn't work with affordable housing, and we've learned a lot about drafting decisions for this. When this was approved, the board did not know that 55 and over for sale affordable housing projects do not work. That is largely because of the income limitation for home ownership units for 55 and over. You can only have liquid assets of $275,000, which means you have to be poor enough to have that level of assets, but also rich enough to have a standard mortgage for this amount of money. So they do not work. You see them oftentimes come off of the registry because of that, and the state no longer approves them. You cannot go for a 40B for 55 and over in any community anymore. And they cannot count on your subsidized housing inventory, not just because they're discriminatory about family housing, but also because you cannot sell them. You cannot sell affordable for sale units. That's why communities that are smart, just like Westford, do rental housing for seniors now, and that's how they go through subsidized housing. And they have programs, and they partner with smart affordable housing advocates like Choice and David Hedison that get projects built that seniors can actually afford, and they stay on the town of Westford's inventory, and they count towards your subsidized housing inventory. That's why you don't see units like this anymore. You did not know that in 1999. Also in 1999, the board did not think about segregating units. Now, and every project that I've ever done in the town of Westford that has any other type of unit, except very specialized units, those units need to be mixed in. They can't look any different than any of the other units. That's certainly for sure for the affordable units, and to the extent possible for the senior units as well. That is something this board would not do that this project does have. The units are very segregated to the front of Depot Road. They don't even look like they're part of the Riley Road project. But that's something that this board and the town has learned. A very similar project, well, not similar at all, but the only other flexible development project that's been approved recently is Juniper Hill. If you look at Juniper Hill, their units, even the Habitat units, are integrated throughout the project. Just as an interesting side fact, because I've been reading all of these decisions, is that Juniper Hill also got relief like I am asking for today. They went to the Zoning Board of Appeals and got a variance request to allow 155 and over to allow one bonus. I know I didn't ask for it in that way. I asked for it as relief from the basic number of dwelling units allowed in the flexible development and that math, but it's exactly the same thing. I'm asking this board to allow 155 and over to allow for the one additional bonus unit in addition to the other math, which would be the existing open space and the good design. The final thing that this board has learned is to put proper legal documents in place and to make sure that future owners are protected. These owners do not have this. There's a very simple restriction put in place. It says these are age restricted and they will be counted as part of this flexible development, but there's no condominium documents for these two. There's no way to share expenses. As a matter of fact, right now they're trying to replace the roof and their insurance company's having a difficult time trying to figure out how they will even do that since they share a roof and there's no documents to deal with that. So I just wanted to go through that to make sure the board understands. It's not that I'm saying that the 1999 board did a bad job. I'm just saying that circumstances have changed and we've become wiser. And I think this project, this unit is being penalized if you don't allow this modification because there is nothing that they can do with it at this point.
I'll ask you a question. So has 113 Depot Street been conveyed since it was originally?
113 got conveyed after the affordable housing restriction was removed.
They could get it, you're wondering if they could get a conventional mortgage with a party wall and a party roof?
Yep, we have the conventional mortgage out here as well.
Really? Okay.
Yep.
But they also are age restricted, correct?
They're both age
So
restricted,
they
yes.
conveyed it as age restricted back in 18.
And they're both still age restricted. The only thing that got removed from 113 was the affordable housing restriction.
Right.
That unit's a little bit easier, it's a little bit smaller, it's a little bit less costly, and all the living is on one floor. So if you're 55 and over looking for something costly that's in a first floor that you can age in place, that unit's gonna be a little bit easier. The unit on lot 5, 115 does not have those amenities.
Okay. All right, Jeff or Joe, before we go to, you have anything you want to add?
No, we did review the Juniper Hill decisions and we can confirm the accuracy of what she stated.
Well, while we're with staff, would this be the first time a board in Westford has taken this action to reverse a flexible development's restrictions around age? Like, are we setting a precedent with this decision is, I guess, my question.
Well, we would tell you, you never set a precedent. You look at each project under,
Yeah.
with its own set of circumstances.
I can add some color to that too, if you'd like.
Yep.
So there's been, other than one other project that I can think of that did not get variance relief, the other two projects which I've been quasi involved with, Juniper Hill and also Hawk Ridge, that's also a flexible development. Both of those had to go to the zoning board for basically the same relief before we came to the planning board to get the basic number of dwelling units that we have for this project. This is the first flexible development, because there's not many that we've had to look back and try to undo one of these issues and didn't do it forward. And largely because this was the first one.
Okay.
And this unit owner's lived here since it was initially bought. So it's not been an issue moving forward until now.
Yeah.
All right, Bob?
Okay, this is near and dear to my heart. So I joined the planning board in 2000. However, from 98 through 2000, I was on the master plan implementation committee, and I was one of the core members that helped craft the original draft of the flexible development bylaw, hence my knowledge of the project, and hence why I have a copy of Randall Arndt's Rural by Design book, which is what flexible development is based on.
Right.
And obviously, we did learn a lot. There's a couple things you said that, though, offended me, and it's not just the planning board. The flexible development was a process that involved the planning board, the developer, and the developer's attorney.
Right.
Who I believe you had worked with at that time,
Not at that time. I was still in
or
undergrad.
later, by the end of my term.
Yeah.
And I do know all the history here of the issues of affordability and over 55, because I know we had a discussion, the planning board, I think in the 2000, 2001 timeframe, involving 113 when I was now on the planning board. And the lesson we learned was, affordability and over 55 don't work together. We didn't know that. We went in with rose-colored glasses in '99 thinking we were going to be doing the right thing for somebody who was over 55 and couldn't afford a unit, but they just don't have enough working years left to justify that kind of conventional mortgage. So it does fail, and I understand that. One of the other things that I didn't hear you say, I mean, some of the features of 115 that are less desirable compared to Stone Ridge are the lack of development of over 55. That's a community that tends to be at home more. They may not be working anymore, and so having others in a similar condition was very favorable. They have a clubhouse. There's no clubhouse for this. So access to services in a community setting, you get the senior bus, but that's about it. So there's a lot of factors that would affect, I think, the marketability of this unit. I do question a bit on the appraisal report, because I did notice on page 20 that it did incorrectly state that Stone Ridge was built in '98.
But I did notice that as well, Mr. Chair, to Bob's point. The top says it's built in 2002, but then there's a note underneath that says 1998, but when it carries forward into the chart, it does say 2002, so I did notice that.
Yeah, so I think
error as well.
'98 may have been when the land was put under option
Correct.
For the developers to
Right.
buy.
But not built.
That was not built.
Yeah, the correct date is the one above that said 2002.
And I know that only because I was on the planning board for the whole process of approving that development, which was painful. I also noticed that, this is a smaller unit. I do want to correct one statement that you've made, as well as I saw in the building commissioner's report, and that is, while this is a difficult unit to sell because of the bedrooms on the second floor, many of the units at Stone Ridge have that same feature. Some of them are a little more flexible because I think they have an office you might convert to a bedroom. But that's not this isn't the only one in Westford that has that kind of feature.
Certainly.
So I'm a little concerned about that statement.
Well, I'll say just to that point, Bob, I think that a lot of those others are, just as you pointed out, are more active adult communities.
Correct.
This is an age-restricted unit, like you said, that it's been isolated from the rest of the projects. It's not even tucked into the neighborhood for which it was created. So I think that does, I agree with you that does create
But that was a
problem.
choice of the developer, not the planning board.
Oh, I agree. I mean, this was a project that was put forward by a developer and approved by the planning
Right.
board. I don't make my points about what the planning board did in the past, and I think I will say it again. I don't think the planning board in 1999 did anything wrong. I'm just pointing out.
They didn't know. They didn't know any better.
They would have known none of these facts, not about affordable housing, not about design, not about resale. They'd have no way of knowing
Right.
any of that.
And if it hadn't been for these two additional units got constructed as the bonus units.
Right.
And if they had gone conventional, it would have been the other 4 units only
Right.
on that property. So
Correct.
this unit was built as a benefit to the developer to get more units. And I think that was part of the factor of why he put it out front. It was less expensive for him to put it there, and it dropped the development costs for these additional units. The last thing I would ask this board, though, and I'm very, very concerned about taking a unit out of the inventory of over 55. We didn't cite it well in there, but we do have it cited in the sense of well in the town, because it's not just focused in one large development. It is in a more conventional neighborhood down on Depot. So I think that's a benefit. Yeah, it's not cited well within its own neighborhood.
Right.
And you did mention the affordability issue, where there is a well-defined process and algorithm for how you retrieve the excess monies when you remove something from affordability. And I would ask the question here, what do we do about assessing what is the excess money that is being realized by removing the over 55 age restriction? And if we can assess that, where should that money go in the town coffers to the benefit of over 55 housing?
Well, I have a suggestion, and it
Okay.
ties into the master plan, Bob, so I know you might like it. So I did think about this, and, quite honestly, my clients thought about this, because her mother has enjoyed being a 55 and over resident in the town of Westford for the last 2 decades, and she would still live here today if she was able to. So moving the 55 and over restriction for someone like her to move in there, she's not taking it lightly. So she also wanted to do something for the 55 and over community, and part of her issue was access. And I did look at the master plan, and there is a section in there about transportation and seniors and access. And I know that there actually is a shortfall in our budget. It's not big, $26,000 or so for yearly transportation for seniors. So her thought was, one, she would give a small gift right now of $2,500 at closing to go towards transportation for seniors in the future. And just to prove the point that she's not here to make a windfall, she'd agree to split anything that's over the assessed value. If she should remove the restriction and then you get $600,000 for this house, she would split that with the town of Westford for senior transportation needs. So these are things we've already thought about, and I think that is fair to ask. And I think there is something you can split over the assessed value for, to make sure that the town of Westford does not come out of pocket or lose a unit and not get paid for it. Just like the affordable unit. So the affordable unit, 13 at that time was, I think it was $20,000 and change. That was the difference between the affordable price and the market rate price. And the town of Westford did get a check from that. So I would agree that that's a good, and that's my proposal as well, and my client's proposal. So it's a great idea, Bob, and I think it should happen.
The last thing relative to that I would ask Jeff and Joe is to figure out who we could have to do an independent assessment of that appraisal report. As I say, I'm an amateur, and I did find some mistakes in there. I certainly found questions because I didn't think you could really do a comp with what they had there. I don't think doing comps with surrounding towns is very accurate.
Yeah.
And it was very difficult to do a comp relative to Stone Ridge.
Right.
So.
It is difficult.
I am looking for some smart advice from your side of the table on how we assess that appraisal and determine what is that good threshold if we proceed forward with
So-
recognizing excess funds.
Couple of just suggestions. might not get anything smart over here, but what did our chief assessor, what's the assessed value? And what is
535. That's what I was saying about the appraisal. It
And
really doesn't matter
the
what the
difference
appraisal says.
from the,
Yeah.
it was what, within 5,000, something like
The
that?
appraisal is 530 and the assessment is 535. So usually you sell your house for a lot more than what your property's assessed for. Here, we've reduced it down to the assessed price.
So I do think it would be a difficult thing to try to pin down. I'm sure you throw enough money at it, it could be done. But on the one hand, that could be money potentially put towards, say, transportation services provided by the Cameron Senior Center
I mean,
for
I would be
seniors.
comfortable with the assessed value. I mean, that's, we would assume that.
I will point out, there was an interesting recent case, the Hicks property, where there were 4 units. 4 of the units, 3 of them were not restricted, 1 of them was age restricted. Of the 4 units, 1 of them wasn't selling, and it was the one age restricted unit. The other 3 units, I believe, were sold to people 55 plus. They were all 55 plus, but none of them wanted to purchase the age restricted unit. So this isn't coming from nothing. We are seeing this trend, this pattern. I don't know if it has to do with limitations on the property or resale or limiting your buyer pool, or I have no idea, but this is.
Mortgages.
Oh, God, yeah. So this is not a made-up thing. We are seeing this, again and again. So I just want to point that out. And it's for new construction, brand new construction. They couldn't sell that unit. They went back to the zoning board, not always the friendliest of folks when it comes to guarding age restriction, and they agreed to lift that based on the evidence and the prolonged period of time it took to try to sell unsuccessfully, so.
Well, I know that, and I know we're focused on the age restriction because that was the condition that we're looking to remove. But if you look at the overall intent of the flexible development bylaw, I know 55 and over, creation of 55 and over requirement is one of the intents. But the other intent is to create affordable, moderate, and median housing. This would do that. Moving the restriction just makes a starter home. This house is gonna be limited by its size, by what it is, by the lack of documents, so it will always be this price. It also has a 2-bedroom limitation. One of the other purposes of a flexible development, I think, is to not be a burden on the real estate property, which this is to protect the value of real estate property, which I think this is not doing. I mean, I think this is actually a burden on the real estate property. We had an abutter come to the last zoning board meeting, and really his concern was that the unit was not gonna sell, and that the property value, his property value on Riley Road was gonna go down because nobody would buy it, and supported the modification. So I think that the board can easily allow for this modification and still say well within the intent of the flexible development bylaw, even though you're losing 155 and over unit.
Bob, anything additional? Good points you had.
The only thing I would also like Jeff to have our experts look at is comparing this to 35 Stone Ridge. For some reason, this one is assessed at a larger value, but 35 Stone Ridge seems to be more saleable.
Well, so
And
I can.
that was the comp unit.
It's a Westfordable, Bob. So that's a little bit different. If you look at, if you actually go on the assessor's, the comment section of the property assessment card if you go to the Westford database on the GIS and hit comment, it says there that this was priced for a formula. And remember, Stone Ridge had 3 different prices. This was one of those units that was sold at a lower price.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, too, you can still see that the value's gone up, and dollar for dollar with this unit, it's basically matched since 2002. So if you actually go back and look at the assessed values of that unit, 35 Stone Ridge, see if you click on previous assessments there.
Yeah,
it's okay.
I've got the data.
Oh, yeah, so you can see that it actually tracks. It's actually
It tracks, but it's about 20,000 less.
Yes, and the only reason that it actually caught up is because they took away the condo assignment for this unit and turned it into a single-family home. And that's how we got to almost within $6,000 of each other. But you can see here that that 339 was an error. Obviously, it was assessed at full market value before it was a Westfordable. But then you can see this 223 all the way up. They basically match within $20,000 to $30,000 of 115 Depot Street, right? So I did look at that. I really did try to take, and I tried to find other comps, there isn't any. You have to go out of town, because the only comps really you have for senior non-affordable sales are either $1 million estates, $700,000 estates, and 55 and over active adult communities. Stone Ridge does have a little bit more basis in reality here, because some of them are condos, some of them were set at these lower prices initially, but there really isn't a lot of comps out there. That's part of the problem. So we did try.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that the appraisal isn't even necessary, because you can base it on the tax assessment. And the tax assessor, it was Paul then in 2019, thought that this was a very reasonable assessment. And moving forward, it's only gone up as much as the tax assessments have gone up for every other house in the town of Westford. But I don't disagree with any of your
Yeah, no,
statements,
I mean,
it's just very difficult.
I'm on the fence on this one, because,
Yeah, yeah, we've tried.
yeah.
I mean, really, we've tried, and even when people come and look at these units, I think since our zoning board meeting in October, we've had 10 open houses for this unit and 0 offers. We keep the brokerage, we're keeping insurance on an empty house, so it's not as if we're not trying. We understand what we're asking the board to do, taking away the restriction, but we have tried.
I'm done.
Thanks, Bob. Jeremy?
Okay, so I have several points, and my first one is, if you go back to 2018 and removal of the affordable, I was on the Affordable Housing Committee at the time.
Right.
And I have no recollection of that, so I'm assuming it went to the trust, not the committee. We're now one combined committee, but I can tell you the committee probably would have fought, because that's like, clench my teeth when I hear that they removed an affordable, restriction.
Well, it happens though in these old deed riders, before we had these blanket Freddie, Fannie deed riders, there was restrictions that allowed for right of first refusal for the town. They actually ended in 30 years. They had a sundowning provision. And the town did hold a right of first refusal, but if you couldn't find a buyer in a certain amount of time, the restriction went away, and that's exactly what happened here. And I think Chris Pewdy signed that certificate, so you're probably 100% right on who took the action. So it wasn't unusual, and it's still not unusual with these older restrictions. Actually, after that, I think it was right about that time, the town actually went back and revised their flexible development bylaw to make the affordable housing restrictions in perpetuity. So I can't remember what year that was. I think it might have been 2010, I'm guessing, but I'm looking at Bob, but he doesn't know either.
I don't remember, I remember
Yeah.
it happening.
So I agree, but that's what did happen before deed riders went in perpetuity.
Right, but
Yeah.
I guess there could have been the option for the trust to
Buy it.
it.
Yeah.
Which, again, had the committee known more about that, maybe we could have done something. But anyway, neither here nor there. My problem with this whole thing is, I'm sure when she bought this unit, she knew it was over 55. True.
Yep.
And we are going through great pains with MBTA community, with all of other, through affordable housing, to create over 55 housing. And I can understand, and I am sympathetic to her need, but I have a concern about, where flip-flopping, where, saying, oh, we need, oh, but we'll let this one go. We need, we'll let this one go. So, I have an issue with that. I also had a concern that in this whole thing, now I know we just talked about it a little bit, but there was no offer of compensation. So it's not like anything was even being offered to the town, just, oh, let's remove it. So I have concerns overall about all of those things. I understand there's now an offer on the table, And I mean, I'm sure if we remove this restriction, this thing's gonna bid up like crazy, because, there is no low-priced housing in Westford.
Right.
So we all know that this thing's gonna bid up like crazy. And what's Westford getting out of it? We're losing. It's kind of a lose-lose. So I personally have a very big problem, but
Okay.
need more convincing.
Mr. Chair, sure, go ahead.
Well, yeah, let's go through the board, and
Yeah.
then, we'll let you speak.
I wanted to speak directly to her concern. I did tell Melissa today,
Come to the mic, please.
Yeah. Your name.
That, God willing, it sells at 535. If by some miracle it sells for more, my mother is more than happy to donate all of that money to the town of Westford. She's not looking She's just looking for security in the event that she can't be cared for in my home and I have to place her someplace else. So anything over the 535 price that it's at now, we're more than happy to give to the town of Westford, along with the $2,500 at time of closing that Melissa spoke about.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dylan?
At the risk of being the contrarian on the board, I'm not quite sure what the town of Westford is losing. An age-restricted house that nobody wants to buy? Is that a loss? I don't necessarily know that it is. I don't really have any issues doing this. I was interested in two things. One, if we were setting a precedent, Jeff reminds me that we are not ever setting a precedent here. And then my second is, do we need to take this feedback that we're hearing about some concerns regarding age-restricted housing? I mean, there's been a lot of talk on this board over the last 5 years about the need for more age-restricted housing or age-protected housing. It seems like that doesn't always meet the actual needs, so I'm interested whether we need to revisit the flexible development bylaw and think in the context of MBTA communities about when we place age-restricted housing, what do seniors want in the living conditions that they call their primary residence or a secondary residence if they're only going to be here seasonally. Like, what are they looking for? And it's probably not a detached yet attached house, kind of separated from common amenities that seniors like to take advantage of in those later years, right? I mean, this doesn't seem to me like a house that, as a person approaching an age that I could buy this house, that I would want to buy if I was looking for an age-restricted house. So I don't really have a problem with this, and that's really my thoughts.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, certainly a case study on building one building with one house with one shared roof involved. It's certainly something we'll have to look at going forward, but my only concern is this: the neighbor, the abutting neighbor, they bought their place age restricted, knowing that the building next door is also age restricted. So, now that if that gets lifted, and then just a family moves in, these guys moved in with the belief, the understanding that this was gonna be a shared 55 and over development, so.
Sure.
My
Mr. Chair,
question is,
I can speak to that quickly. Then they did come to the zoning board of appeals, our variance application. They had no objection to our variance application. So they understand that this would be moving the 55 and over requirement.
all right, and then my second question there then would be, do they try to sell their house knowing that if they lift the restriction, they're gonna get more too? And then the next door neighbor already just lifted theirs. So if they come in, speaking of precedents, and they say, well, listen, you guys just gave the neighbor the ability to lift that. That's just something I want to prevent too. So
Sure.
those are things I'm thinking about.
Sure, and that, I mean, again, this is a case-by-case basis. We're here for 115 only. If 113 wanted to come back through and do this, they would have to do this too. I will tell you that this unit is different.
The
And
simple fact that they've already conveyed 113 before.
Yes.
There was a buyer.
twice since then.
Is there a bedroom on the first floor in 113?
Everything's on the first floor. Yeah.
So
It's a different.
it's different.
Yeah.
So.
Just quickly, just to Joni's point, I mean, I'm an advocate for senior housing. I'm an advocate for affordable housing. I think that I probably sit in front of you for most of the affordable housing and senior housing projects in the town of Westford. So when somebody asks me to remove a 55 and over requirement, I don't do that lightly. This particular unit, I honestly don't feel is a loss to the community. Because it's just a 55 and over by name. It doesn't really do a benefit to the neighborhood that it's in. It's not doing a benefit to itself. It's not getting anybody into the unit that's 55 and over and wants to stay part of the community. So there's no net benefit to this particular unit. I think that the dynamics in Westford have changed, where we have very high price 55 and over and very low price 55 and over. There's really not that middle for 55 and over looking here right now. And the town of Westford's doing an excellent job of getting projects in to take care of the affordable housing issue. I mean, I know that we are working on Town Farm, that Helena Crocker just got built, so things are moving forward. And those are the types of housing projects that the town is focused on. But I don't think this is going to be an overall loss. And I apologize I didn't make the pitch for giving the excess funds in my cover letter. I I was gonna make it at the end of my presentation this evening, but it is on the table, and as she's obviously generously offered, more than I have offered, is that the town can have all excess funds over the assessed value, so the town doesn't have to worry about a windfall, and if there is somebody that comes in and makes a high price, and the town gets the benefit of the entire amount. And yes, Pauline knew about the age restriction when she moved in, but her value has only gone up that much, which is clear from the assessed value and the assessed value at Stone Ridge being exactly the same increase. So she's not getting any benefit that the same 55 and over at Stone Ridge would get. The town's gonna get the rest of that money. So I just wanted to just quickly address those points, and sorry, Mr. Chair, I interrupted.
That's okay, no.
Yeah.
My thoughts are that I wouldn't recommend an independent appraisal. I think that traditionally our assessor is lower than appraised value anyway, so in this case, it's gonna be a benefit to the town if we're gonna recoup the difference. I agree that this isn't really affordable housing if the bedrooms are on the second floor. What's the first thing people looking at senior housing is, first floor living, one floor living. So, I obviously have a big issue with the party wall, but that's not before me, and there's nothing I can do about it. Anyways, I hope that somehow gets rectified. But I would be in favor of removing that restriction, with as stated, the proceeds over the assessed value coming to the town for the benefit of the seniors. Any other questions? If not, I'll go to the town, to the public. Anybody in the public have anything they want to add? Okay, go back to the board. Anything else? Anybody? Questions, concerns?
Just a question on process. Do we wait for the independent appraisal assessment to come back?
Well, I think,
Can we
my opinion would be
give
just to
this
take the
turn us over
appraised
for-
value,
Yeah,
the assessed value, since, again, I think that's generally lower than what a sales, and if we go ahead and wait for, we reduce the restriction, obviously that value is gonna go up significantly, I would think. So I would go with is it 535 currently
The
assessed?
assessed value is 535, the appraisal price was 530.
Yeah. I mean, anybody on the board have any thoughts on that?
I'm fine with 535 is
Yeah, I think that's a fine.
it's perfectly fine.
You okay with that, Bob?
yeah.
Okay. All right, so,
Mr. Chair, can I just ask before you close the public hearing,
Sure.
could we just take a straw poll? Because if anybody's on the fence and would want more information, I would want to know that before we close the public hearing. Just-
anybody looking for any additional information?
But before we do that, can we be clear about what you're straw polling?
If they'd approve the modification, or if they're inclined to approve the modification with the information and concessions before them.
I just want to be clear about, you threw out the $2,500 upon closing,
Yes.
and then I've heard two different offers for half the value that's above and the full value that's above.
The current offers for the full value over the assessed value.
I personally would waive the 2,500, as long as there's saying we remove the restriction, we get half, the full amount over 535. Obviously minus closing costs.
Unless it doesn't sell for over 535. Unless it doesn't sell for over 535.
Right.
Yeah, well,
But I would, want to make sure that before we formally remove the age 55 restriction, that Jeff and Joe and town council get a signed agreement to that effect.
Absolutely.
And I was gonna say, signed agreement, and what are we gonna do with the money? Is it gonna go
So
to the
that's-
senior? Is it gonna go into the affordable housing I mean, what's gonna happen is that question. And the other question I would ask is, this unit is being sold at a very difficult time. Yeah, I mean, this is being presented at a difficult time of year. Seniors do not wanna move in the middle of December. So I guess the question would be, the price was much higher during the springtime and the summertime when seniors would want to move. If I look around the town right now, nothing is moving, nothing. So is this just something that's part of nothing is moving, and come springtime, it's gonna go? I mean, I would ask that we look at what's happening in the town right now from a real estate perspective.
Well, I think that's happening all over. I think that's an excellent point, Joni. I mean, I think the market is softening for real estate in general, so some of your clients' inability to sell could just be a timing issue and doesn't necessarily have to do with the age restriction, but
but it was listed last April, so that was spring. So it went through summer, and it's not as if we listed it for 560. It went down incremental times over the summer. Nobody made an offer.
Right, you mentioned that nobody even gave a low.
Nobody even gave an offer. Nobody even said, we'll buy it for 520. There wasn't ever an offer on the table for this unit. So I'd agree with you, had somebody made us some lowball offer that we've rejected in May, but that never happened. It never happened here.
Get back to Jeff's point with the Hicks property and nobody looking for that age restricted unit.
Well, and the Hicks properties are selling. So that's, something else there.
Right, but what I'm getting at is the age-restricted unit that
Yes.
did not
Did not
sell,
sell,
and they
yes.
went back to the board.
Right.
So,
Again, this unit originally was age restricted and
Just age,
affordable?
115 was only ever age
113
restricted.
was the affordable.
113 was
Thanks.
age restricted and
Okay,
affordable,
thanks.
yes.
Yeah.
So it's just age restricted.
Yep.
Yeah.
like, so we've never asked to do a straw poll before, Jeff. What's my responsibility here?
Well, you're the chair. You can accept her suggestion or not. I would just be clear about what you're polling.
So before us is remove the restriction. Anything over 535 comes back to the town. We haven't determined to what entity or to what coffer it would go into. But I would take suggestions and assume it's something to do with age,
Senior
Senior housing.
program.
Senior.
obviously a signed agreement prior to us removing this. Anything else we need to add in there?
Just food for thought or a question. If we say that we want everything over 535 to come back to the town, doesn't that create a reverse incentive for the seller? Because if I'm gonna give everything over 535, why am I gonna negotiate to get over 535? If you tell me I'm splitting the difference, I'm gonna negotiate to try to get more than 535 because half of that's mine. I'm just saying.
Yeah. But I think they've come into good faith, but
Yeah, yeah.
that's a good point. I mean, do we wanna, I mean, I was comfortable with half.
I was as well. I'm just saying, if you tell me that you're not gonna get anything over a certain amount, I'm not gonna fight very hard to get more than that amount, right?
Yep. That's a good point.
But on the flip side, a house at that size, after, doing this with my own kids, is gonna bid up like crazy at that size. I mean, people are dying to get into this town, and there is nothing in that price range, nothing.
That's a good point also.
Can I just
So-
also say we're paying a broker? We've paid for this broker the entire time, so as soon as the age restriction's removed, if they can get more money for it based on their own
Right, that's true. The
income,
broker's looking
they
for
are
it.
going to.
That's true. That's
So, and like I said, my client is not in this to make the extra money. She's in this to just sell her unit and move on with her life. So we're happy to give the rest of the money away over 535. The broker is going to put it at what they think is going to sell for a non-age restricted unit. And then the town will get the net benefit of that, and then we can work on where the gift would go to, because there is a little bit of nuance to that, because we have to gift it through the select board, I think, even if
believe
once
so,
we pick
yep.
the location. So the planning board can condition it as such, and then I would take the next step of going to the select board to give the gift after the unit sells.
So I still have one other point I have to make, and after going through, like I said, going through this process with my own kids, every house in Westford that was a reasonable price was bought cash by older people over 55. Every single small house. So that's why I'm
But they
I'm
can't-
having difficulty. I'm having difficulty, because we're talking, houses on Old Homestead, houses, I can't tell you the number of houses that were looked at, and every time it got bought by, and what happened is people were selling their big house and cash, so of course somebody's gonna.
No contingency.
No contingencies, cash, yeah, of course somebody's gonna take a cash buyer, they're not gonna take somebody that has contingencies, has to get a mortgage, young people that, oh my God, what if they lose their job? So I guess,
But if that person was out there, they'd be buying this unit right now.
and that's why I don't know if it's the way it's marketed, I don't know. I'm just really confused after going through this process.
Did you say there's a limitation of amount of cash they can have to be,
To be an affordable purchaser,
affordable.
yeah, not for,
not for the age restriction alone?
no.
No.
And so,
No, but this is
with us
being-
talking
yeah.
about the Realtor Commission, to be clear here, the Realtor Commission is gonna come out of that portion of 535. So if the house sells at 600, the town receives 65 plus 2,500.
No, it'd be proceeds, whatever the proceeds are. So, in my opinion, it'd be 535. Anything, the sales price over 535, it'd be proceeds over 535.
Right. Any money that's to be made
So-
over 535 would go directly to the town.
So everything will be taken out, so everything above 535, that would be the proceeds check that would go to the
Okay.
seller.
I just want to make sure we're clear about
Yes.
that, and that gets in the legal agreement.
Right, so the
Yes.
closing expenses and whatnot is taken out before that 535.
Yeah.
So that's,
Is the
I'm
2,500?
not sure I'm
in?
comfortable quite with that, because,
I mean, in my opinion, that's standard, right? So you go, you sell your house, you pay the expenses, and then you have proceeds. So if they're looking, if they're offering proceeds above the 535, it's what they're walking away with. They don't have a mortgage to pay off, but they're gonna have to pay legal fees, they're going to have to pay, tax stamps.
bottom line is if they are selling it at 535, the proceeds are going to be well below that.
520 maybe, right? So if the number is 535, they walk away with 520. But we're assuming, as Joni said, this is market driven, there's gonna be a bidding war, and it's gonna be
But
significantly
it
higher.
means that they got to get to about 560 for 535 to be the proceeds.
Probably 550, right? If it's 15 one way, it's 15 the other way.
So I understand Bob's point. What are we really getting? What number is the town really getting?
So it just, if I may, so in my opinion, the reason we're going through this exercise is to show that the seller's not getting a windfall by us removing this restriction.
Right.
Right? So by doing that, we're saying, okay, any proceeds that you're walking away with better than 535, we're taking.
Right. We would make no money than we would over 535. The town would get everything. She would earn no more money than if she sold it with the deed restriction today.
Okay.
Just like the affordable housing restriction. The town gets the benefit of the check over.
So this whole thing
My
about
only,
the real
my only
estate
point is that she's not going to get 535 if it sells for 535.
No. No, because you have closing costs and things.
Correct.
Right.
So I think we
Right.
have to be very clear about how we're wording
Right.
that in the
Stan,
agreement.
we could put something about standard closing costs. You can make sure we're not jamming anything else out there.
And that's
not
something that
extraordinary.
council, council.
Yeah, well, I'd
Okay.
defer to town council, yeah, and we can structure it much like the affordable housing restriction, the excess funds,
Okay.
which is something the town's already dealt with, so we can make sure it's a structure that the town's comfortable with.
Okay. Any other questions, comments?
Nope.
No. Simple majority with this, I'm assuming?
Well, actually, we would anticipate, it would be great if there were 4. It is a special permit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's modification of a special permit.
Right, so that would, says, oh, go ahead.
But can I say, I think, and I know this is not a popular decision, but I think we would want to see all those documents first.
So, if the board were amenable this evening, I would recommend closing the hearing, and you could see the draft decision, and you could even have a chance to review the documents from council before making your I'm sure the select board, if it gets to that, would want to have input from the planning board. And we could even weave things into the decision that they have to bring the draft documents back to you at a regular meeting, and then they would look for you to provide input to the select board.
You comfortable with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Anybody else?
No, I think if, you know, Attorney Robbins, said that the neighbors didn't have an issue, so that was a big concern I had, which seems to be not an issue.
So, but when they go to sell,
That's a different,
then, and can't get anybody over 55 because his babies or kids living and screaming next door, are they gonna come back? So are we really setting a precedent?
Well, it might depend also when, at what time in the future, so.
Then this is only 55 and over, so just to be clear, there's nothing that stops a 55 and over couple right now move in with their child. There's plenty of 55 and overs with small children, so if a couple wanted to move in with their small child, nothing prohibits that today. And nothing prohibits that 55 and over person from buying it after the age restriction is removed.
But there is a prohibition against a large family, because it is only a two-bedroom
Two-bedroom,
unit.
correct. That's why I'm saying the risk is minimal, that you're not going to have like these tear downs that you talk about, that they come and pay cash, and then you have a mega mansion where a shack just was. That can't happen here, for many reasons,
Yeah.
but, yeah.
Well, no, my point on the cash purchase was people are selling their mega mansions.
Oh,
Because
okay.
they're downsizing.
Right.
And they are
Fine.
buying.
Right.
So it's odd to me that that was happening consistently, and now all
Right.
of a sudden it doesn't happen.
Right.
There's a common sense problem that I'm having.
Right.
It just,
A lot of those are family houses though, too, larger houses. And these smaller houses don't always flip like that, especially condos.
So the only thing I would like in the agreement is that the calculation of the benefit to the town is made by calculating what the additional proceeds would be when the sale price exceeds $535. Because I don't think we should be factoring in the fact that $535 is only gonna realize, let's say, $515 or $520. So it's that fair share of the additional funds, if that makes sense.
Yes, that makes sense.
Percentage-wise.
Client's looking for you, Melissa.
Oh, sure.
We are, I'm not exactly sure how to phrase this properly, but to your issue about the 535, it would be our expectation that we would pay the closing costs, pay the attorney's fees, what else, the broker's commission, et cetera, from the 535. We're not trying to make
Okay, I understand, yeah,
a profit. We're trying to protect my mother.
I understand.
So anything
Yep.
over 535, no fees would be taken away from the town. Anything over 535 would go directly to the town, and the town is free to use it however they wish to.
Thank you.
So, thank you.
All right, after all that, unless there's anything else, motion to close the public hearing?
Were you sort of straw pulled there, and there's no other further public comment that I saw? Okay.
So moved.
Close the public hearing.
Yeah, I know. Are we ready to, okay, second.
All right, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, so do we have a motion to modify the, for PB 2427, modify the flexible development for 115 Depot Street, approved in the definitive subdivision Tall Pines as discussed this evening? Is that enough, Jeff?
Well, to remove the age restriction on that unit
At 115 Depot.
at
Street.
115,
Depot Street.
and I guess it'd be subject to satisfactory agreement to be reviewed and approved by town council. That factors in any monies over 535, the current assessed valuation. Something along
I'm
those
fine with
lines.
that. The only question, Jeff, do we need to reference the original special permit flexible development approval reference?
Yeah, we will include that in the decision.
Okay.
I thought we were gonna, are we not, did you suggest that we see once everything is written up and take this vote next time?
Well, to sign the decision, right?
Oh, just to sign?
So I'm suggesting that you close the hearing. We can defer to the applicant if they also may want to see benefit of that decision. Your next meeting is January 6th. We could certainly turn around a decision by then, but one of the conditions of approval would be town council review of that agreement that you're talking about with notes that we've taken tonight.
So you're suggesting a continuation till January 6th?
I'm suggesting close the hearing, and you could review as an administrative item a draft decision at the January 6th meeting.
so we don't take a vote tonight.
No, we would recommend, well, you could.
I would personally be way more comfortable after I saw that, just.
Okay. Are you wanting the hearing to remain open?
Well, I think the point of the procedure is,
Technically,
the board has already closed the public hearing.
we did just close it.
I mean,
I mean,
Could we-
my preference would be to vote now, subject to review of, before we sign the decisions, we're clear that everything's in the decision that we wanna, that's memorialized, that is properly memorialized what our thoughts are tonight.
So you are directing staff to prepare a draft decision approving the modification as requested with conditions of approval as discussed tonight.
So long as we vote to approve it.
Along with a copy of the legal agreement for the, by town council.
Are you okay with that, Joni? So what we're saying is we're gonna vote on it now, but we don't sign it until we're sure everything is encompassed into that decision that we're going to sign.
And the applicant is willing to grant an extension of time if needed to further that.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, having said that, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Wait,
Opposed?
did we have a motion maker and second on that?
Did we just do that? Motion and
I
second?
explained what the motion would.
No,
we
you
didn't have
explained the
anything.
motion. Oh, so moved.
Second.
All right, do it again. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Okay, I'll aye.
Aye? Okay, unanimous.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Thank you, members of the board.
It's tough to swallow, I know.
I know.
Joni.
That was tough.
It's the right decision.
Yeah.
It's not a proper.
I didn't come in well to vote aye, but
Yeah.
I still am concerned about 113, but I think that's the right decision.
Well, the fact that they've
Maybe we should
I'll talk about it.
move on to the
Yeah, let's
next
move on.
All right,
hearing.
next up, we have PB 24305 Liberty Way. Public hearing to consider the application of Perkins and Ansel for site plan review in accordance with 9.4.1 special permit. Allow a change of use to an indoor-outdoor commercial recreation use. Wow, look at that, the first one. Is there a motion to,
I'll move that we waive the reading of the public hearing notice.
second.
all those in favor say aye? Aye. Motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Oh, yes, before that, there is an application to reduce the fee from 3,000 to 500. I'll have Mr. Morset opine on his thoughts on that if this was approved as a minor modification for,
So the administrative level is relatively low. Because there's no construction proposed, there's no engineering review. We're not coordinating with all those other departments, and they still, with any change of use, they would still have to follow through and, as part of any building permit process, if there's any fit up on the inside, they still have to address the normal comments from the various departments. So if you're asking, is it a heavy lift? No, it is not.
okay.
That's also why there's also the requested waiver on the drainage calculations as well.
I can't hear you, Joe, sorry.
That's also why there was a requested waiver on the drainage calculations, because there was no exterior construction.
Right. Okay, Bob, thoughts on the reduction fees?
No, I'm fine.
Joni?
I'm fine.
Dylan?
I'd really prefer we memorialize these reductions we're asked for into something that looks like a set of criteria and an actual schedule, as opposed to just kind of ad hoc off the cuff doing this every time, but I don't have any particular issue
And I
with
think
that
that's what the
system.
tiered site plan review at some point will do for us.
Yes.
Darren?
Yeah, no issues.
All right, so vote to reduce to 500. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Was there I'm sorry, did someone make the motion for that reduction?
I thought so, but is there a motion to reduce the fees to 500?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Is there a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Trying to push things along, sorry. Sir?
Hi, my name is Rob Ansel. My office is at 6 Liberty Way, across the street from this project. I have the privilege of doing a fair amount of zoning work in other communities, but because Melissa Robbins does such a rock star job here in Westford, I don't have the privilege of being in front of you very often. So with me tonight is Becky Chazon. She is the owner of Spotlight Dance Academy. I have set forth in my letter what the application is. Before I get to that, I'll just give a brief overview of what Spotlight Dance Academy is. Becky started her business in 2008. She was in a small space next to Dunkin' Donuts on Route 40 behind Mario's. She moved from there to where the bank is down the street, across the street from the gas station on 40 where Little 5 is. She was there until 10 years ago. She relocated her, and each time she needed more space. She's currently at the intersection. It's the address is 15, is it 15? 13 Powers Road, which is the intersection between 225 and Powers Road, which is the extension of the daycare that was approved years ago. She has, her daughter is in the school system. She's 11 years old. She currently has 12 employees. The primary hours of operation are 4 through 9 on Monday through Friday, and on Saturdays she has her space open from 9 to 12. The way that the kids are in and out of her programs are staggered, so they're that an exceedingly busy time would be a total of 75 children. Some kids go for a short period of time, some kids go for a long period of time, and it's very unusual that somebody would be there for the full period of 4 hours, although some of the older kids that are in high school do that. By way of background, I'm certainly willing to go through where we are procedurally. I think that if the property that my client is looking to lease is 10,330 square feet. Thank you for calling that up. The property is served by 235 parking spaces. The property is in the industrial highway district and consists of more than 11 acres of land deep within the well-established commercial subdivision known as Liberty Way. Prior use of the property was professional office. Currently, the property consists of 2 multi-tenant, single-story commercial buildings and 1 single-purpose swim school. On March 24th, 2023, the Westford Planning Board granted approval for a group called We Walk the Spectrum to operate 4,000 square feet of recreational space in that same area. We're not proposing to construct any additional building area connection with the proposed use, and all the proposed tenant work, excepting the installation of new exterior building signage, would be limited to the existing interior space. It's our opinion that the proposed use of the new tenant space is closely defined as indoor commercial recreational space. We went through that analysis with Mr. Morissette before we filed. At the annual town meeting, the town of Westford voted to amend Appendix A of their zoning bylaws to allow for indoor and outdoor commercial recreational, winter commercial recreational activities in certain zoning districts, including Shelby Valley Ski Area and Kimball Farm. The use of the property has long been varied and has included professional office, educational uses, general service, recreational uses, with Goldfish Swim School, which is consistent with what we're doing here. By way of further background, the development of the property was originally permitted as part of the subdivision known as Interchange Industrial Park in and around 1980, and with a 40,000 square foot building. And my building's across the street, as I've said. I think we're well aware of what we're looking to do, and I think that instead of going tirelessly through my letter, that it'd perhaps be better if we opened it up to questions. Or, like I said, the primary use is going to be, or from a planning board perspective, kids are primarily at school from 4 to 9, which is the off hours for that area. I have been in my building at 6 Liberty for 12 years, there are times when I wonder if there are any tenants at all across the street. There is some drop-off activity with the adult daycare, which starts in the morning, but they're out by 3 o'clock. The traffic for Goldfish Swim travels through a different area. As I said, my client has been in town since 2008. She's currently outgrowing her current space. She is going to be responsible for doing all the build out for this 10,000 square foot space, and she's hoping to be here for the duration of her lease, and then some, which is at least 10 years. So that's essentially where we're at. My client, some kind of bigger picture questions. My client has a competitive dance team. She does not anticipate doing any dance competitions. I naively thought that would be something that she would do, and I'm told that those are done at places like Foxborough Stadium and their gigantic, big, multi-day, multi-age events, and certainly something that my client would never want to host. So if they're kind of events that you shut down the Westford Regency for, they're not events that would occur on 6 Liberty Way. Also with me tonight is Kevin Erickson on behalf of the owner, who can address any other uses that go on in that property and address any traffic flow issues that we may have, or other planning board issues that are not directly related to my application. So.
All right, thank you. Jeff or Joe?
No.
Nothing to add?
Bob?
Okay. I know you have 75 persons per hour. Is an hour the typical length of the dance class?
Typically, yes.
Okay.
And they
Can you just
stack.
sit up here just so you caught by the microphone? Thank you.
So that's typical, so that would be, you mentioned 375, so that's basically 5 classes, total 375.
Yes.
What's the age range of the students?
2 to 18 mostly, but we do have 2 adult classes as well.
Okay. The only concern I have is with 75 youngsters coming in at one time, is the traffic associated with drop-off and pickup, especially when you have drop-off for the next class and then pickup for the previous class kind of occurring concurrently. And so I'm just concerned about the traffic flow around that building, especially with some additional traffic back to, was it Goldfish?
Right. Goldfish ends up traveling in a different way, and I'm not trying to answer just for her, and she could certainly answer for herself. What she had said prior to our meeting tonight is that I never have 75 people at one time. My number of 75 is that I have 5 different rooms of 15 people, so my maximum capacity that I am building out is for 75 people. The way that she sets up her rooms is that there's a different room for tap, for instance, which has different acoustics. She has different rooms for ballet that has better bars, and
That's all well fine, but getting back to the traffic
there's
flow,
never going to
I
be
would
75
still,
people at the
I
same
would feel
time.
comfortable if with this application, we had kind of some concept showing the traffic flow. And the one other concern I have is because you have young kids under the age of 10, how that drop-off zone works. I would like to see stop signs so that if the kids are running in and out, it wasn't clear to me what the traffic, how the traffic flow is really gonna work. But just seeing a safe area where if the kids are running out, they're not running out into the traffic flow, as well as factoring in the traffic flow potentially from Goldfish.
Okay, so, I think I'm uniquely qualified to speak to this, in that there is no traffic past where we are. There is essentially nobody in the Reebok building. So our traffic, and I'm not discounting your thoughts.
Help me show you where you are. I guess I'm not clear where you are versus where Goldfish is.
And Bob, yeah, I don't mean to interrupt, but from one
Please
who
go.
goes both to the dance school and sees the traffic with my granddaughter, and parents stay, you know, when they're little, they don't drop off, they stay.
Right.
And also goes to Goldfish. Where is it's not the same driveway as Goldfish, is it?
Yeah, there.
It's the same driveway, that's why I'm trying to
Well-
understand.
Well, it isn't, that's why I'm kind of confused about the parking, because you drive in, the driveway comes off of Liberty Way, and Goldfish is over there, so, I mean, not off of Liberty, yeah. So my question is, where are you in this building, 'cause it's 40,000, you're only using 10,000, so are you on this side, this side? Do you know what I mean?
You can answer that.
To which
The
side?
the laser pointer, you have the laser pointer, Joe? for me?
Yeah. Yeah, what area within 5 Liberty are we talking about? Because that's gonna make a huge difference on the
I
traffic
just
flow.
don't understand traffic
Yeah.
flow.
Looking at this, you said, I'm not sure where in this, is it up here that we are? It's,
Your building, your space?
yes,
Yes.
that's what they're asking, right?
Well, they're asking about traffic and how you come in and out of there, and they're concerned about Goldfish, which is the back right-hand portion of the
Yep,
property, and that
Goldfish
we're
is
gonna
up
be interfering with.
It seems to me you share this drive on the right-hand side.
Yes, Goldfish's spaces are up here, this is where they park, and they're in and out, and then our spaces are down
I'm not talking about parking, I'm talking traffic
the
flow, sir.
traffic flow.
Okay, so if.
Bob, I can probably speak a little bit
Yeah,
to this.
and I think we could direct traffic if that's what you're talking about.
So, just for the record, Attorney Kevin Erickson on behalf of the property owner. So this site doesn't see a lot of traffic, even with Goldfish there. I mean, it's a swim school, but it's a parking lot like any other parking lot in the town of Westford. You know, people travel accordingly, and, you know, it's no different than Powers Road, where she currently is now. In fact, this is in my opinion, a much bigger, more expansive, much safer site than Powers Road now. There is really no traffic concern to worry about in this instance. Traffic will come in off Liberty Way. There's natural traffic calming effects in the fact that there are spots all along either side of that road. Again, these are complementary timed uses. So most of the tenants that are professional office or business uses are going to be vacated from the premises at the time when the dance studio is operating. Goldfish may have some overlap, but again, they're not a thoroughfare. They're just another business of, you know, people will come and drop their kids off. They'll walk their kids in like I would do with my own children when I went to Four Kicks, or, you know, We Got Soccer, or any of these other places where you bring your children. You would walk them in safely to the premises, either sit in your car or leave, go to Dunkin' Donuts, come back for pickup. It is really not a situation where there's going to be children walking all over, because Goldfish has been there for 10 years now. And it's not been a situation where there was ever any risk or danger. We would not be in favor of any internal stop signs at our property.
So where is the entrance to the space? Is it that, where it's the existing concrete walkway, or is it this side?
Do we have the space plan too?
Yeah,
that we
that would help us.
submitted? I think you submitted a space plan, didn't you?
No, I just submitted that plan.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's the.
Here it is, Kevin.
Because there's also the electrical supply place, and that
Yeah, that's in the
closes.
back. So the electrical supply, the wholesale business, is that addition that you can see added to the back.
Right,
So the,
that, yes.
yeah. So the entrance,
It's the red button.
the entrance, I would imagine, I think there's a doorway over here. I thought we had a plan.
It's right there.
So if
Yeah.
I may then,
So then I would be concerned
So-
with the kids. Yeah.
again, I've been talking access, not parking. So I agree that the parking may not be shared with Goldfish, but the access is. And I'm just worried about cars coming from Goldfish, coming down, and some kind of a small dancer coming out into that traffic flow. That's what I'm concerned about.
I think one of the things you had mentioned was little ones running through the parking lot. They, the parents stay for their hour or 45 minutes of dance class under the age of 10. It's only the older kids that are maybe coming in from a car that's being
Yeah, I
dropped
think if
off,
that,
maybe.
I didn't remember seeing that in the packet, but if that could be part of this, I am much more comfortable now knowing that.
Because the little ones don't have multiple classes because they're so young, that they're not the ones getting dropped off. Their parents are waiting because it's only 45 minutes or an hour of class.
Okay, no, that's really good information to know.
Any other thoughts, Bob?
The only question I would raise is whether we would want to consider a crosswalk outside that door across the space, just because that provides a legal means by which somebody is obligated to stop. That's the only thing I would ask to consider, but otherwise, I'm fine now hearing the response from the owner, the business owner. Jeff?
You have in the past, for a variety of decisions, put in a condition, subject to satisfactory review by public safety, meaning building, police, fire. So if they have a specific, proposal and a decision, like you could say, and this would take cooperation from the property owner, if it's, if public safety feels something is warranted, they are not shy about making those recommendations.
I guess I would ask the public safety then to review for this, given the concern of, I'm just concerned about cars from Goldfish now are making a shot straight out, and they're just coming down that drive, or coming straight in, also. And you have the potential at certain hours for children to be traversing that parking area down there.
I don't know if the
That's my
property owner has any thoughts about that.
Again, Goldfish has been operating there for 10 years. We've got an adult daycare facility here. We have various different businesses. We have We Rock, the Spectrum. All of these uses are synergistic. We've never had a single complaint from a tenant in here in the last decade that anyone from Goldfish was speeding on this site or creating an unsafe situation. We would know about it. We would address it. Obviously, it's a liability issue for us. So, of course, we would address these issues. We do get, a lot of complaints from tenants on a variety of different issues, and that's never been one of them. So, again, without knowing what the specific recommendation is from public safety, I'm not prepared to say that we'd be in favor of it. I don't think a crosswalk is necessary here, for example. We would take their input, and then I would work with, Mr. Ansel and the business owner and see what, if it was something we could accommodate or not.
So, also, just going towards the swim school, the way that the property lays out kind of promotes slower driving. You need to look where you're going to figure out where you're going. So there is kind of a natural traffic calming through that space, and we're going to have some street signs. If it made sense to put the street sign on the left side, we could certainly do that as opposed to the swim school sign, so we have traffic naturally flowing through that way. That might be something that.
Dylan, you hit the.
Well, we have letters in the packet from both Westford PD and the deputy fire chief from Westford Fire. So, Bob, are you asking for something beyond the letters that you already provided?
They reviewed what was provided to them, and I don't see anything in here that really showed traffic flow or a question that they had to respond to. That's my only concern.
I mean, I know they're obviously familiar with the
I
site.
was going to say, I assume they know the area.
Yep.
Joni, do you have anything?
Yeah, I do. So I just want to ask, so access, again, is it only from this side, or will you have access from that side too? I'm kind of.
We can access through both sides.
Through both sides.
Right.
And that I think will make it a whole lot safer. That was my only question.
Dylan?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Darren?
No, my original question was gonna be on parking spaces, but does seem like it's complementary to the other uses there. And I've seen the building at Next Generations, it's a much smaller, not square lot, so I imagine this is an improvement from what the existing condition is.
Huge improvement. From one who's been there.
Drop the kids off
A
for
lot.
daycare there for you.
And I wait, and that is a problem, because when, yeah, it is tight, and when everybody's there trying to wait, bring their children or grandchildren in and stay. This is much better situation.
All right, I don't really have any concerns. They've been addressed in my mind. Bob, how do you want to continue on with this? You did have,
I'm fine, but I would appreciate that public safety did take another look, given my concerns. Because if you look at the criteria for the special permit, the only thing I have a question on is the traffic flow and safety. I'm fine with parking, it's that loading issue and small children coming in and out. And it looks like a freeway back to Goldfish, but maybe it isn't.
so I guess question, Attorney Ansel, would you be amenable to, if this was approved, subject to a further review by public safety with the question of traffic?
I'm fine with that. And I'm fine also with, if we get in the record, what the owner said about children under 10 being under escort at all times with the parents.
Here in the parking lot.
I just would want clarification as to, that just seems like an open-ended condition. I mean, I'm certainly not amenable to a condition that would obligate my client to accept carte blanche, whatever the
Well, I think it
public
would
safety
come back, if I
recommended.
may, Mr. Morissette, if you want to elaborate, but if we say, ask public safety to take a further view subject to traffic, if they do have a question, we bring it back, is that a possibility?
And the other possibility, we just
Well, can
continue
we
the
let Jeff
hearing and
answer?
wait for
And
public-
then we're not closing out the public hearing?
Right. So there's two main approaches. We could reach out to public safety again, notwithstanding that they already provided comments, and just have a further conversation. And that way, both the applicant and the property owner would have benefit if there are any forgotten comments that they did not yet provide. And then maybe the board would be in a position to know before closing the hearing. Alternatively, we could put a condition of approval subject to satisfactory review, which they've already provided a review. And then if there is an issue that they come up with that the property owner is not amenable to, they can come back to the board to have further conversation.
I would feel that's a better approach, since they've already reviewed it to begin with.
Yes, I agree.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah. Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay.
And I think the business owner doesn't want to have a parking mess.
No, they don't want liability
If
either.
there's people dropping the people off and it's a mess, then you obviously talk to your customers and say, let's work this out. I think.
Okay, anybody in the public have anything they want to add to this? Seeing none? We have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, is there a motion to approve the change of use at 24, for 5 Liberty Way, PB 2430, as discussed this evening?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Can I give you this, or do you want me to bring it to the town hall?
We'll take it.
Okay, thanks.
Good luck.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right, for our first of two general business items, PB 2315, 70 Boston Road. Request for a modification of condition 12 of the board's prior decision, specifically to change the requirement of the final as-built plan before the issuance of a first certificate of occupancy to before the issuance of the final certificate of occupancy. Mr. Morissette, you want to start us off?
Sure, Mr. Chair. So the applicant is back before you. You had a condition of approval that was very specific, that said site work must be completed, that the as-built and certification about substantial conformance must be in hand before issuing any of the certificates of occupancy. Now, this is an unusual project, and there are really two main projects going on here. There's the Drew Farmhouse that has the 5 main units. Habitat also has 2 units. And they are moving, I'll say, at different paces. And I think it's fair to say that the Habitat, they rely on a lot of volunteerism and donations. It takes a lot longer. And as it turns out, when they have their volunteers, there's a great need for parking. And as you know, the approved plan calls for the parking at the front, a significant portion to be removed. However, in the meantime, Habitat has need of that space. And it doesn't logically make sense to have some of the other improvements, such as widening the drive. It doesn't make a lot of sense to do that now while it's still a busy construction site. So it is beyond the staff level to try to authorize something like this. Normally, we could only do that if there was a security in place. And so we told the applicant that they should come back to the board and have you see if you're willing to revisit your condition of approval that requires all of that to be done prior to occupancy. I will say, regardless of what this board does, if it is an unsafe situation, if building or public safety does not feel as though the interim is a safe thing to do, then they're not going to sign off on occupancy. However, Habitat is not the one asking for this change, and the way the request was worded, it was simply to withhold the last C of O, which presumably would be a Habitat unit. So I did advise the applicant to perhaps come in and address the concerns that, is it possible that Habitat for Humanity could be in an unfavorable situation if the 5 units are occupied and all of the site improvements are not yet fully done, but what if Habitat is ready to seek their occupancy? So I don't know if the applicant would like to chime in there before making her requests to the board.
Before we start, I have one question. I don't see this on the agenda.
It's not, wasn't
It's not
on
in the
the
packet?
packet.
It was modified.
Oh, then I missed it, okay, missed it today, okay, no problem,
And that oversight was
sorry.
my fault.
So it's up on the website now?
Oh, yes, it has.
This is already,
It's on the agenda.
Yeah, it's on the agenda, yeah, no, I,
Was it on the agenda?
was it
It's on the amended agenda.
on the
I
amendment?
guess I don't have the amended
Yeah,
agenda.
I did the same thing you did, I downloaded it before.
So Jeff has very succinctly explained where we are. The 5 apartments in the farmhouse are done. We're in the process of getting final inspections, and we hope to have occupants there by February. But Habitat for Humanity will not be done with their 2 buildings, 2 homes in the barn until June, because they started after we did. There's absolutely nothing about the work that Habitat will be doing that will interfere in any way with the 5 apartments and the people who live there. They were just simply by our neighbors. And we are just asking, as Jeff so clearly explained, that those 2 issues, that their modifications we're supposed to be making of taking up the blacktop and widening the driveway be postponed, waived until such time as Habitat is finished, and then we will be there. And I would suggest we make a mutual agreement between the planning board and the board of directors of the Drew Farmhouse, that as soon as notification is received in writing from Habitat that they are done, we will immediately begin the work so that there is no time lag at all in terms of having that done, and Habitat will be glad to help us with that. You may have received an email, I think Jeff did, from the executive director of Habitat, supporting this and working with us. They've been fabulous partners. So I think it really makes a lot of sense, just given how the project is unfolding, and we'd be very grateful for your support on this, so we can get residents in the 5 apartments and have Habitat volunteers continue with the barn.
is Habitat giving you any indication of when they believe they'll be
At
complete?
the moment, they are saying May or June. So
Okay.
we're only talking about a 6-month overlap between, and our residents, Mike, will not be in until February at the earliest. So there really probably will only be 3 or 4 months there.
Would you be amenable to a timeline or a deadline on this?
Absolutely. I don't know how I can mandate. I did speak to the project manager today for Habitat. He seems to think that a June 1st deadline is very reasonable and that they should have it done by then. But what happens if we do a deadline and they're not ready until June 15th?
Well, it could
That
come
just
back.
need-
Good,
Yeah, exactly.
Come back.
Come
Oh,
back.
fine. Oh,
Yeah.
that's fine, as
Yeah.
long as it's.
You come
yeah,
back to us, sure.
realistic. No, but I think June 1st is the date that I talked to John about today. He seemed to think that that was credible and doable, so that would be fine with us.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bob?
No, I'm fine,
Joni?
I'm fine.
fine.
Good.
Darren?
Yeah, I think June 1 sounds reasonable, and if it's approaching then it's not done, we can revisit.
Great. Fortunately, if we're lucky, it'll be sooner, Jeff.
Yeah, good.
So maybe, yeah, it would be, if we don't receive, the 30 days prior to the deadline from Habitat, we'll just plan on putting it on an agenda to come back.
Yeah, absolutely.
We did, just for the record, we did receive late today correspondence from the Habitat director agreeing that this would be beneficial for them to have continued parking for their needs through the spring, and they don't want to delay occupancy of the other units, so.
And so, just for also the record, if Mrs. Hardy skips town, and the deadline comes and goes, there would be enforcement fines, correct?
Yep, they would be, just as in any other decision and condition of approval, they'd be subject to zoning enforcement through the building department, which could
Very
include
understood.
fines.
Any other questions, thoughts?
Nope.
All right, so, can I get a motion to modify condition 12 of the board's prior decision in PB 2315 as stated this evening?
So moved.
Second.
With adding the deadline of June 1st?
First. Yep, absolutely.
For, motion and second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And thank you for fitting it into tonight's agenda. Merry
Thank you.
Christmas.
Thank you.
Merry Christmas.
Good luck.
Okay, discussion item B, discussion for upcoming zoning bylaw amendments, specifically sections pertaining to the town's floodplain overlay district and ADUs. Mr. Morissette, is this you?
I'll take the floodplain and Joe will start on the ADUs. So, as you may recall, as part of MBTA Community Zoning Bylaw Amendment, we did already do updates to the floodplain overlay district to be in compliance with latest requirements. So that part is good, but as we knew then, there will be a new flood map that affects one of our watersheds, probably by July 1 latest. And we are absolutely required to adopt the new flood that will be, a new flood map that will be in effect. So we're obligated to do it, or we're no longer, we'll be in violation, and we could lose eligibility as a community, flood hazard community. So we are hoping that this board would be willing to sponsor that amendment. All it is reflecting the map update, but it is a necessary thing to do.
Okay.
We've done this before.
Yep,
Yeah.
and
And we
of
can't
course,
just say as amended, we asked, they want you to put the specific date of the map. So it's just one of those things that comes up every so often.
of course, we have 2 watersheds in town that never seem to be on the same cycle. So we have to update it twice as frequently as a lot of other communities.
So what do you need from us?
No, I think we already have it. You're willing to sponsor
right.
this amendment, so.
Yep.
All right, Joe.
And the
How about
other-
drive-throughs?
The other discussion that we've had, at least internally, is whether or not to pursue modifying the accessory dwelling unit bylaw for the spring or for the fall. There can be pros and cons to each. The latest and greatest out of the Affordable Homes Act for accessory dwelling units will take effect February 2nd. So anything kind of coming out of that with our current bylaw, anything in conflict, we're kind of in a limbo state, if you will. So how long or short do we want that state to be? But at the same time, draft regulations only came out last week, and they won't be finalized until the new law takes effect, which is February 2nd. So we won't have a lot of reaction time by the time you're trying to conduct a public hearing for modifying the bylaw.
I think, unfortunately, next fall appears to be the only reasonable
It seemed to be.
first approach.
They had a couple webinars on the draft regulations. They did record one and post it on their website, UHLC, as well as the draft regulations that were in the packet. They have the slideshow available through their website as well. Just a couple kind of key things to highlight in there, aside from going through different definitions or what have you. That they ask you to consider, would it really make sense for you to require site plan review for an accessory dwelling unit when you don't do that for single family? So just making sure you're consistent with whatever you may have for regulations, that you're not going over and above what you otherwise would for other types of uses. And then they did try to get into some kind of specific examples, I guess. So They have these in here for like pre-existing ADUs. Westford has an owner occupancy requirement for, it can be either, you can be in the principal or the accessory. So in their example here, if you had a special permit that fit within their box, which is 50% of the gross floor area or 900 square feet, whichever is less, and you had owner occupancy, but it fits in the box, you can't enforce that condition anymore on that special permit you had. If it's something that's outside the box, it was a 1,200 square foot ADU, you still can have that condition in there. And then the other really kind of interesting one in their interpretation, if you have a 1,200 square foot ADU on the property, someone comes in, wants to propose a 900 square foot ADU, that's allowed as of right. So even though there's already the ADU on the 1,200 square foot ADU on the property, this protected use ADU can be allowed as of right on the property. So now you have two on the property. So just different things to consider that may not have initially come to mind, so it might be worth having a more prolonged approach to the fall to try to take this on.
And the guidelines are not yet finalized. They're still subject to change, so.
So who knows, maybe some of these interpretations change, but this is how they're interpreting it now.
This makes
I know.
no sense. So if the original ADU is 900 feet, and they want to come in with another one, it's a special permit. But if the original was 1,200 feet, the 900 is allowed.
So it seems as though, right now, you get to have a protected use ADU, period. So if you have an ADU that doesn't check that box, then you get to have another protected use ADU on top of the other ADU.
But can I ask, but all of the lot setbacks and everything still apply?
Yes,
Maybe, that's,
we believe yes.
okay.
Yeah, you can still impose
So you're gonna
setbacks
be
and
limited
things
by
like
your
that.
lot size, yeah. and-
Yeah,
And septic will
and
be.
septic here will be bigger. And then again, if you want to start imposing design guidelines or something like that, are you doing that across the board for other similar types of accessory uses or even single families? If you're not, then, why are you all of a sudden doing it? That may come into question when bylaws are getting reviewed.
Accessory dwelling unit, almost it's always gonna add at least one more bedroom, so Title V is gonna be the
The other thing
big
that
issue.
did catch my eye, I'll try to find it quickly. So protected use ADUs will be allowed wherever single family is allowed within town. So that's not just, residence A, residence B. If we allow single families within other zoning districts, whether by special permit or not, even if it's industrial A protected use ADU is allowed as of right in that district.
But wasn't there also language that said that's allowed either as of right by special permit or variance?
Yeah, so really that
So
could be the whole
technically,
town.
that could be, because we allow use
we allow use
variances,
variances.
that could be any district. So that's something, yeah.
So could Whole Foods put in an ADU behind
They
their grocery store?
Could be pretty big too, that's a big space.
So 900 square
100
feet,
square feet.
it's whichever is less.
We had a task force, though, that said that we need more of those, like, combination, like, zoning districts, right? Where we have, like,
Mixed use.
retail and mixed use retail
Yep.
and
Yeah.
living together.
Rings a
See,
bell.
It's just coming at it from a different direction, that's all.
So there's lots of things, lots of nuance to it. So it definitely seems like fall would be a better approach versus trying to rush to
Makes sense.
town meeting, which is only 96 days away, in case you're, counting down.
And Bob, we're not forgetting about your request about the friction and the buffers between residential uses, but now that we are being awarded the Route 40 corridor study that stemmed from friction, we thought it does make sense. There could be a logical outcome from that process, so. And perhaps you'd even volunteer for that committee.
I nominate Bob.
I'll do it.
We don't have that yet, but we're getting ahead of ourselves.
There was a A&R in our packet, do we?
There was, but it was not, we did, last week, not gonna lie, wasn't the easiest week for us. We had many problems, but it wasn't on the agenda, so here's, you have two options. The applicant would likely grant an extension to the January 6th meeting because you only have like the 20 days to act on an A&R. If you don't,
It's automatic.
it's automatic. So you could either prove it tonight or wait till it's on the next meeting, and I think we can secure an extension. And if we don't get the extension, it's quicker for them to wait to January 6th to get the A&R versus pursuing the other avenues to, you know, go through. It's just,
Did you guys look at the plan?
Yep.
I did.
Is there gonna be a flaw if we do it without, it being on the agenda?
so that would be on the applicant. However,
Denied it,
that being
probably.
said, it's in it, you can't effectively deny or condition an A&R, so.
So, it's up to the board, but I would just, might as well push, since we have it here. It's an A&R. So is there a motion to
Approve PB 2433, an A&R for 149 Groton Road, as discussed this evening, with no considerations related to underlying zoning.
Second.
All those in favor say aye?
Aye.
There were minutes, so can I get a motion to approve the minutes from November 18th, 2024?
So moved.
For discussion.
Looks good to me as well.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? And I don't remember any correspondence, no correspondence. All right, unless there's anything else, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.